Welcome. Welcome back to the eighth annual Justice on Trial Film Festival. This is our third night of our film festival, and it has been just such a vibrant, informative, and moving films that we have been able to see. I want to say to everyone out there, we didn't know if we were going to be able to pull this film festival together, but we did. As a result, we have more people attending. But one of the things I want you to know is that I really miss the conversations after the film festival, the work that comes and the connections that are made during the film festival. But we're happy that we were able to continue our work and present this eighth annual Justice on Child Film Festival. So tonight, I'm really, really happy. We have a special guest, Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas, to say some words before our film, The Third Strike. But what I'd like to do before we go there, introducing Supervisor Thomas, is to thank the Art for Justice Fund, one of our supporters of the film festival that's housed at the Ford Foundation, the Alliance for Safety and Justice, our longtime partners at Loyola Marymount University, Bill Resnick and Michael Stubbs, and a special thanks to Deanna Cook. Deanna Cook has made Justice on Trial Film Festival its home. And Rory, our master technology technician that has walked us through all the kinks and made us a smooth, digital film festival. So I want to take a minute just to talk about a dear friend of mine, a man that I call a champion for justice, our supervisor, Mark Ridley Thomas of the Second Supervisory District. And Supervisor Thomas, he has this very, very lofty and in-depth background. He's been in our assembly, he served in our city council. He was the chair of the Democratic Party in the legislature, and he goes all the way back to SCLC. And when I watch how he moves, I see that SCLC, that organizing, that understanding of people, not just some people, but all the people. And Supervisor, I've had the pleasure of walking along with you while you did incredible work around reforming our justice system. You put in place a civilian oversight committee, a probation committee, an office of diversion and reentry. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. And what I want to say to you is, I'm so sorry to see you go. We have term limits at our in our board of supervisors, and what I don't want to see is the work that we've done together to disintegrate when you leave that office. So as I bring you into this conversation to talk, I'd like for you to touch on how, when you pass the baton, you will work to keep these offices, to keep the work that you have done, to reimagine justice, to stop the building of jails, to create an office of diversion and reentry, and all the work you've done. I just can't even begin to state it all. How you will work as you pass the baton to keep these offices alive and well. And I want you to know that we'll be walking right with you, and the person that gets that seat, because we're not going to let our work die, not even during COVID-19. Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas, come on with it.
Well, thank you very much, Susan, and that's a very kind, generous introduction, and you already know the extent to which it's mutual. Mad respect for Susan Burton and a new way of life, for the advocacy and the service to families to real people who have benefited tremendously from the work that you and your team has put forward and continues to put forward. And you're right, the work that we've done together has been pretty extraordinary, and it will not end. I intend to remain on the public stage and be shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm with you, working the agenda for justice and to make sure that every right that those who are formerly incarcerated deserve, that they will in fact enjoy. It is called fulfilling the promises of democracy. And to the extent that that is the case, fret not. We are going to continue to do what we do, and we will be doing it together. The stories lifted by films featured at Justice on Trial Film Festival are, in my mind, a critical part of achieving the needed transformation of the criminal justice system. Art matters, justice matters, we matter, and we want it to be clear that it is our intent to animate the existence of the very notion of justice as it moves throughout our respective community. These stories, I tell you, humanize the people impacted by the systems. They are not animals, they are not things, they are human beings worthy of being honored with the dignity with which they were born, not allowing them to be defined as mistakes, and they foster a dialogue among diverse audience, and that's what film does. And it seems to me that absent this creative work of these filmmakers, shout out to the filmmakers, many of these stories will remain untold and unheard, and yet they are being liberated in the context of this film festival. So these films, I believe, uniquely reshape and retell the narrative about these impacted by the quote unquote justice system. This change in narrative, long overdue, is part of what compels decision makers such as myself and the people that they serve to work towards shifting the paradigm of criminal justice away from punitive approaches and more toward rehabilitation. We say care first, jail last. That's the policy framework under which we currently operate, and we are unapologetic about it. A model that recognizes and builds on the strengths of people, the worth of people, the dignity of people, rather than anything to the contrary. So we want to say thank you for the leadership of people just like Susan Burton. Not too many like Susan, probably no one like Susan, and a whole team at A New Way of Life. They make a substantial contribution. They have impacted my service on the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors for good. And I am proud to say that, and proud to be blessed by their work. If we're in a different context, I'd say proud to be blessed by their ministry. Look at this. Since the beginning in 1998, more than 1,200 women, children, have found safety and support in the context of A New Way of Life, their safe homes, and they keep on doing the work. It is tremendous what they do, and we need to honor it accordingly. Over 400 women are doing much better and have been reunited with their children. So it means that the children will be doing better. And since 2007, its legal department, Susan got a legal department going on, has provided pro bono services to assist thousands seeking relief from the burden of the criminal justice histories that they are bearing. Prop 47 is hardly irrelevant in the lives of them. AB 109, all of that means that we have lifted people from the shackles that held them back. And so these services have helped to enhance their lives and the lives of their communities and created opportunities for them to grow, to aspire, and to be all that they can be. And so the list of what A New Way of Life does goes on. And I just simply want to say this work has to be complemented and supported. The progress made at the county, including all the work in diversion, now nearly 6,000 people out of jails into community supportive services context, and the implementation of body-worn cameras, and the substantial decrease in the jail population. Susan Burton has been on the case, plugged into that, and we thank her, we celebrate her, we lift her up. The success of reform depends on people just like Susan, Grinding, New Way of Life, and all of the companion organizations. This film festival helps tell that story over and over again. And it depends on your continued engagement, your continued imagination, your continued willingness to push beyond the limitations often imposed. That's what advocacy constitutes. That's what A New Way of Life is about. That's what this extraordinary film festival suggests tonight. And I thank you for the opportunity to share these thoughts with you.
Thank you, Supervisor Thomas. You know, I want to say to you that you came along and you believed when no one else believed, and you supported when no one else supported. And quite frankly, I don't think I'd have made it without your support. But God sends. I mean, that's real. You don't know.
Stop. Well, I hear you.
You know.
Yeah. But you made it better. You made it better for all of us.
Yeah, well, thank you. But
you made me a better supervisor. I'm telling you.
Yeah, well,
real talk.
We had a couple little squabbles, but we got through it. And
we're gonna have some more. We're gonna have some more tonight.
Thank you so much.
God bless.
And then you know, you're going on to the city council, and we're gonna be there. We rocking it. So
we're gonna have to do it. Yes. The work continues.
Yes.
You know, in Portuguese, a luta continua. The struggle continues.
All right.
We leaning in.
All right.
That's just what we do. You know.
Yes. So I want to introduce you to one of the newest members of the team at A New Way of Life, Danny Deza. Danny came on when we were in the throes of putting this together, and we didn't know how we were going to put it together, and Danny just made it happen. So Danny, thank you for your commitment to the work, your support, and for joining the team. Danny Deza.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you, Mr. Supervisor, for joining us today and for all your support. But I also want to thank the A New Way of Life team for welcoming me with such open arms. And I'm such a proud member of your team, and I'm so proud of our work supporting formerly incarcerated women and their families. But I'm also really proud that we're continuing the conversation through the 8th annual Justice on Trial Film Festival in these pressing times. I want to welcome everyone here tonight to the 3rd night of the Justice on Trial Film Festival. But I also want to invite you all to join us each night as we continue the conversation on this film festival, and as we continue to put the spotlight on justice impacted people by telling their stories through films and panel discussions. Let's register each night on justiceontrialfilmfestival.net, where you can register for a ticket, but also you can register to vote. And you can even also check your registration status. In these urgent times, your voice and your vote matters as we push towards justice. But for now, let me turn to the main event. In a moment, you will click a link located at the bottom of this video, and that link will allow you to watch tonight's important films. First, there's a screening of 2 short films from the Hidden Lives Illuminated, both created by artists and filmmakers at the Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution of Chester. And then there's The Urgent and Powerful, The Third Strike, directed by Nicole Jones, which explores the laws that tried to throw away 2 generations of people. You will meet Nicole along with other incredible guests immediately following the film at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. During the panel, we will take as many questions from you as we can, and you can enter those questions in the chat box you see on your right-hand side. And you can also enter any technical issues that you might have. We have people from A New Way of Life reading those throughout the entire event to make sure that you have the support you need. And after the panel, there'll be an encore presentation for those who you have friends and family who cannot make the first screening. So please let them know that the second screening is at 6:45 p.m. back here. So for now, let's go to the link at the bottom of this video. In the description, it'll say, click here to watch The Third Strike, and it'll take you to justiceontrialfilmfestival.net, where the movie will start shortly. So enjoy the movie, and we'll see you back here on YouTube Live at 6 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you, and enjoy the film.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Ingrid Archie, and I am honored to join you this evening, but even more honored to be a part of the A New Way of Life 2020 Justice on Trial Film Festival, and a part of the organization that I've worked with for the past 5 years. So we've just watched a film that was all about the laws that were written to throw people away. I watched it and I know I could have been one of those people, except Susan and A New Way of Life wrapped their arms around me and didn't look at me as a throwaway. Because according to A New Way of Life and its mission, nobody is considered a throwaway, and we don't throw people away. We give people a hand up so that they can start to dream and they can start their lives and land somewhere safe and begin to have a future. The lifeline Anwar provided me has allowed me not only to become the woman and the mother that I was always meant to be, but to help ensure that laws like Prop 47 and 64 brick by brick take down the walls that have divided families and communities far too long. So before I introduce this incredible panel, um, first, I just want to say thank you to all of the panelists that have joined. Thank you for the work. Thank you for the movie. Thank you for your vision and for putting this all together for us to be able to see it laid out. I know there are some things that we probably was not able to see, but the fact that all of this work has came to fruition and you guys are doing freedom work, it is my pleasure to be a part of this panel and to moderate such an amazing and much necessary conversation. I am thrilled to welcome my angel Cody, litigator and liberator, Bella Boz, visionary artist and revolutionary advocate, and the extraordinary women who directed this powerful film, the extraordinary woman, I'm sorry, who directed this powerful film, Nicole Jones. So to begin, my angel and Bella, what did you hope that people would walk away with? Bella, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, no problem. Thank y'all for having me. Wow, okay. I just saw the film for the first time in a long time, and it's a lot to take in. But first thoughts, like, what do I want people to take from it? What I'm taking from it right now after having just seen it again is that we have to end the war on drugs. Like, I'm a part of a movement right now to defund the Chicago Police Department. And that's a part of a national movement to defund police across the nation. And one way we do that, one really tangible thing we can do is to end the war on drugs. Like, it is devastating families. It has no health benefits. Like, you have been incarcerating people and separating families for decades, And there are no less drugs on the street. There are no less people willing to sell drugs because the economy is terrible and access to the formal economy for most people it's inaccessible. So the drug market is still thriving because it's creating jobs and incomes for people. So if we really want to help communities, if we really want to address the fact that so many people in America and across the world are addicted to drugs, we really have to think about capitalism. We really have to think about the government, like why the federal government feels the need to get involved in local law enforcement matters, like in such a way to further devastate families. It's a lot on me right now. I don't want to take up all the time on this panel, but that's really what's sitting with me in this moment right now. Like, we really have to end this war on drugs because it's a war on Black families. It's a war on us.
Okay, so before my angel answers, Bella, I just want to ask you personally, what brought you to this work?
Lineage. I was chosen to do this work. My mother was fighting a drug case that she was threatened with life in prison for while I was in her womb. You know, like, she found out that she was pregnant with me while she was standing in front of a federal judge. Like, she had I made my presence known right there in that courtroom. Like, it's not just you fighting this case. So I feel like that was my first protest in her womb, you know. So I really didn't have a choice in this. Like, my family has been torn apart by the war on drugs, and I felt like it was my responsibility then, once my family was able to provide for me a lot of things that a lot of children who are born into families who are ravaged by the system of incarceration in that way, like, often aren't able to provide for their children, like the same things that I've been provided for, as far as like being able to go to the best schools in the city and being able to have connections to people who are scholars and people who are activists and people who are lawyers, you know. So, like, I just had this access very much because of my family's selling drugs in the city. Like, I'm trying to say it all academic and shit, but like, really just because of that, like, I had so much opportunity. And once I started learning about how our story, how my story, my mother's story, my grandmother's story fit within this national story, this global story of what the war on drugs is, and how even it's connected to migration and immigration. Like, my grandmother came to Chicago from Mississippi and during the Great Migration, and like, the opportunities here were to be in the informal and the illegal economy. Like, that's where she saw opportunity. That's where she was able to make a living for her family. And that's what raised me. So then when I was into Lane Tech in Chicago, is one of the best high schools, and then Dominican University, which is right outside the city, as well. I went for college, and I had this access to all this information, to all this knowledge, to be able to make sense of my own situation. And putting that in a global context, it just put a fight in me. Like, I know too much, right? Like, I know too much to not do my part, to not tell my story, to not share my voice. That's like, God made me do this work.
Right. So you answered to your calling within the womb while your mom was fighting, to let her know that you knew why you were coming into this world. And it all came to fruition right now as we talk on this panel. And it's just a joy. I remember meeting you at the Soros Justice Conference a few years back, and you were a rebel rouser. And just to see you like still, in the movement, yeah, I'm really happy and I'm full of joy. So I want to, of course, I want to move on to my angel and ask you the same question. What did you hope people would walk away with?
I hope that people will walk away with knowing that Black women have always led the freedom fight for us, and because there's a lot of imagery and a lot of sort of rewriting history in our contribution, and a lot of erasure of the contributions of Black women in liberation work. And so I hope that first people see that we as Black women, a team of Black women, a small team, we were leading, been leading, will continue to lead. So that's thing number one. I hope that people will see in that we are freeing us, like we are picking the locks to our own cages. That's really important, because I think sometimes when you see the news, people think, oh, it was Trump that signed the bill, or oh, it was Kim Kardashian that funded it. It's like, I hope that people see that we as Black women, a lawyer, an organizer, a lawyer who's in the military, like we are here literally dangling our bodies over a cliff to do this work with minimal resources, minimal funding. And I hope that people also see that, when Bella says that we have to end mass incarceration, that's not an ask. Like, we're not asking America to end it for us. That is really prophecy. That is the declaration. I hope that people see us as, existing in the three times. Like we've been here, we're here now, we're the future. And so we're coming back to rescue bloodlines for people. And I hope that is also something that people take away from this, is that it's not just a moment, it's not just fashion, it's not just the zeitgeist of politics, that this is existing on a level that's higher than politics. It's on a frequency that's higher than the news stories. And that when you look at someone like Edward or Bella or any of us in that film, I hope that you see that.
Great. And I just want to say thank you. Watching the film, I watched it a few times. It was very emotional at times. And it was like, I think at the part when Bella was like, when you guys were on the phone, I forgot his name, but you guys were on the phone with him and telling him that, he's coming home. And he dropped the phone and he started crying. And Bella was like, I would have been like, get your shit,
Right.
I fell out laughing, but it was so much joy in that moment, because he shouldn't have been there in the first place. And the fact that it took somebody's vision and somebody else to fight and kick in their mama's stomach to come together to bring him home just for that moment. I guess it was just liberating. And it just goes to show that mass incarceration not only warehouses our Black men and women and people of color, but it separates families, and it creates a lot of emotions. It creates trauma that is not it's not dealt with, and it creates trauma that you have to work through for years and years to come, even after incarceration. So that film was just so much for me. I want to know, like, just in doing the work and all that's going on, like what keeps you? I asked Bella what brought her to the work. I want to ask you, what keeps you in the work?
You know, I think for me, every person that I work with and stand with and represent keeps me in it. I have to, like a surgeon, I have to remove the tumor of incarceration. And when you're in the operating room, I try not to get distracted with like what's happening in the news and the media, because there are people who are depending on me to read the cases, to know the briefs, to know it better than the government, to know it better than the federal prosecutors in their case. And so I really source my strength from my clients and their families. And that is enough for me. And knowing that if we work together and we're successful, that interrupts incarceration, not just for them, for the person who's in prison, like Edward Douglas, that interrupts everything that's happening to their family, their whole bloodline, right? And I think for me, that one person and their freedom is enough. We see too often that Black people get reduced to numbers, like how many, people will this law free? One is enough. You know what I'm saying? Like one is enough. And so that's where I get my hope from, is just every person that I stand with and go behind the curtain and see them. I'm like, we all deserve to have them back, right? Like we're all richer with Edward Douglas out of prison. And so I think the fight for me is fighting for our trust fund. Like every one of these guys and every one of these women in prison, that's our trust fund. That's what's been locked away. That's our treasure. That's our stock market, right? And so I feel like that's what I want back personally, on a very personal, deep level.
Thank you so much. Nicole, so of all the many stories about criminal justice in the US, why did this one stand out to you personally?
It wasn't that this one specifically stood out to me. It's the overall thing that people in my community, I was like, this is not new. This keeps happening. This is modern day slavery still existing. And why doesn't everybody know what's going on with our criminal justice system? And that was the passion I started the project with. What I was not fascinated, it's the wrong word. What I was furious to see was how much everybody didn't know about the criminal justice system and how buried it is, because it wasn't just, I thought it was just people in my community. It was also people of color. There were so many people I spoke to, they didn't understand how insidious it is. And then I wanted to be able to look in the eye the women who were doing this work, those of us who didn't have the education and did not understand what was going on. There needs to be something more than donations. There needs to be something more than, I support you. There has to be education put out there in some way, in some fashion. And I just became very passionate about how I was going to figure out how to do it. And I've been following this team around for about the past 3 years and just trying to figure out a way to educate people.
And when you talk about education, was there anything that you learned for the first time while putting this film together about prisons or mass incarceration or just the criminal justice system as a whole that you didn't know before?
I learned everything while doing this because this system does not affect me personally. That is the fact. And that is what I wanted to shed light on. What I learned that I didn't know was how much everybody didn't know, meaning there's part of the systemic issue that I've seen is that there's nuances to it that nobody knows about. Like everybody from every single background has watched this film and said, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And why isn't this film made? It's because we don't value these stories. We don't value this. And that is going to have to be strong arm changed, not soft arm changed. It's, don't know what the answer is, but trying to figure it out best as I can.
Absolutely. What I learned just with just doing this work and working the past 5 years with the new way of life is about the 48,000 collateral consequences that affect a person with a felony conviction. I mean, we already know that you're barred from housing, you can't get a job, and so on and so forth. But there's 48,000 no's that you receive because you have a felony conviction, and yet you're told that they want us to go back into society and be a normal person, be a taxpayer, and so on and so forth. But you have a whole wall of no's that keep you from doing that. So that was one of the things that I learned, and is something that we're fighting for at A New Way of Life, to restore the rights of formerly incarcerated people, not just locally but nationally as well. So I want to pose this question. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say one thing I do want to highlight, because it was really powerful, is when My Angel broke down that we throw so much money at prosecution, but we don't throw money at education. We don't throw money at mental health. We don't throw money at people. There's so many ways that money could be helping create a better system, and instead we throw money at prosecution. So when you asked me what specifically I learned, that was something where I thought was a really powerful part of what My Angel taught me, of the many things My Angel taught me.
I think that's right. And I think that's because the propaganda machine, people think it sort of just started in the last 4 years, but the American mainstream anti-Black racist propaganda machine has been cranking out disinformation and misinformation for decades. And so, I think part of that is just defunding education, mental health services, and suddenly now people are against defunding anything, but they've been defunding us for decades. And I think to Ingrid's point about the 48,000 collateral consequences, there were 48,000 no's that preceded any person that I've ever represented before they ever even went to prison, before they were ever arrested. They were arrested by all these no's, a wall of no's. And so I think those 48,000 collateral consequences are also preconditions that existed in people's lives in the first place.
I want to add in there too that a tangible thing also, like while we're talking about defunding the police and what are we funding instead, like you just said, Nicole, that they are overfunding prosecution. Like My Angel was a defender, a public defender. Like the public defender's office needs to be funded more than the prosecution's office. So or at least the same. The public defender's office gets much less money than the prosecutor's office. So that's something that I know it's a lot of people who do advocacy work watching. It's like, that's something that we can be pushing towards too, is if we're gonna take money from the police, we need to put our own privilege aside of saying what we want out here. Like it's people we need to make sure don't even get caught up in this system. So if we funding the public defender's office, it's people like My Angel Cody in there. It's people like Amanda in there, saying like we need to fund that.
Thank you for making that point, Bella. Really quickly, I just want to let the audience know that you can ask questions in the chat and we will do our best to get to as many questions as possible. And I have
one thing before you move to the questions, I just want to say, and I appreciate Bella's point about funding the public defenders. I also want to underscore that people need to fund organizers. People need to fund the people whose office is out in the community doing the work as well. Because too often, you don't get the funding. Like you devote your life, you devote your youth, right? To dismantling conditions that you didn't create. So I would love to see that as well. I gotta say that.
And also, I just want to piggyback on everything that you guys are saying in regards to defunding, is to see the child welfare system defunded as well, because that plays a big part in the prison pipeline. Kids being cycled into a system with strangers and funded, and being snatched away from women who are incarcerated, and so on and so forth. And we need to create a new system that actually protects our children and gives them a hope in a future, and not a cell in a bed. So with that being said, I have two questions that we got from the audience. And one of the questions is, did the lawyer in the military's father get out? So anyone can answer this question, of course.
Yeah. So there is a small update since the film, and that is that his case was taken up to the Illinois Supreme Court, where it's still pending. So we're very hopeful that the Illinois Supreme Court will do the right thing. If anyone is interested in supporting particularly his freedom fight, then you can call the Illinois Attorney General, Kwame Raoul, and demand justice for Lashida's father. Antonio House is his name. The reason why that's important is because everyone, both sides, the prosecution and obviously defense, agrees that, you know, her father was too young and that the law has changed, so he was too young to get this life sentence. The whole sticking point is, from the state of Illinois' perspective, is, okay, if we give him a break, does that open the floodgates, right? So it's sort of like they're playing chess with someone's freedom that's not really based on anything that her father, you know, is specifically any reason why he should remain in prison. So, you know, I think that's the kind of gamesmanship that I hope that those of us who love justice and love freedom understand what they're doing to us in prisons, and how the law and prosecution holds people just because they don't want it to become a bellwether to let more people free, which, what does that mean, right? So yeah, I would encourage people to email, tag on Twitter, get in touch with the Illinois Attorney General's office and say, do the right thing, and free Antonio House, because they're just afraid that his case is going to create a precedent.
So I have
Can I add in on that and just
Absolutely.
say that if the person who was asking that question is like a little technology savvy, you ain't got to be that technology savvy, honestly. But if you're on social media and you hashtag bring house home, that's the hashtag that Lashida is using for updates on his case. So you can keep up with her there, like look up bring house home. You should be able to find her page too. On Instagram, her page is Disturbing the Law. It's DSTURBING _THELAW, Disturbing _ the Law. So yeah, bring house home, hashtag. That's how you can keep up with her.
Thank you for that. Another question is, how can people get involved? And because this is necessary work, can you, my angel, let people know how they can donate to your organization so that we can keep this necessary work going? Maybe you can enter it into the chat, or.
Yeah, I'll enter it into the chat.
Okay.
So there are two ways to help. You can donate to the Decarceration Collective, and then Bella can talk about Sister Survivor. So if you get out your cell phones and type in a text message, dial 44321, text that number 44321, and in the body of the text, just put the words Freedom 2020 and click send, and that will, you'll get a reply with the link for how to donate directly to us. The money that you donate goes to seed scholarships for our guys getting out of prison. We try to make sure that they have something waiting on them when they get out, because a lot of people don't know that when you get out of prison, they give you a prison issue jumpsuit and a plastic bag with whatever you had in your cell and commissary. So we're trying to disrupt and dismantle the conditions of poverty that people often are sent out of prison in. So you can support that. 44321, text Freedom Now or Freedom 2020 to 44321. And I'll put that in the chat.
So thank you so much for that, my angel. I guess just one last question that I want to pose to the entire panel. And that is, what is the work that you think as a country we should be focusing on?
I think so, you know, I think that we need to be very vigilant right now about the information warfare that's being waged against those of us who care about freedom, and the many ways in which that manifests and expresses itself. I have said publicly many times, and I will say it in this forum, I am no advocate for criminal justice reform. I think the criminal justice reform movement is a bunch of bullshit. I think that anytime you hear the word reform injected into the conversation, that is to placate people who really don't want to dismantle systems of oppression. It's sort of like after George Floyd was murdered, then we started hearing people coming out of the woodwork talking about police reform, which is really just training and more funding and more nonsense and renovating sort of the walls of oppression. So I think we have to be vigilant and cohesive in what the real ask is, because otherwise we'll get some watered down, diluted version of change that really isn't liberatory. And I see that happening too often right now. So my hope is that we will remain in conversation with others, but also with ourselves about what we really envision for the future. Because I think anyone who looks at this film should know that it wasn't criminal justice reform that got us there. It was a lot of work and fighting against the same people who did a press conference. You know, I'll just say it, like there was a press conference and Donald Trump signed the First Step Act, and then everybody was like, look at Donald Trump, he's about to free a bunch of people. Right. But the real is, in the cases that I've had since, and we've won 50 cases, they opposed us. So they have the press conference, they get the accolades, and then in the briefs, the Department of Justice, which operates under the Trump administration, is opposing the motion for the statute that he signed and got the press conference and wants people to vote in favor of him for. And so to just be vigilant about the ways in which information warfare is being waged against us and kidnapping the message, that to me is most important right now.
Thank you. Bella, what do you think we should be focused on in this country?
Yeah, so, you know, the Declaration of Independence was written 8 years before, 7, 8 years before America was an independent nation, right? And in the Declaration of Independence, when they declared themselves free, when they said that we free, period, we gonna fight like we are, it don't matter that everything we're doing right now is a crime because we've already declared ourselves free of the British Empire, right? They said this and they fought. In that Declaration of Independence, it literally says that if the government is destructive towards us meeting our God-given rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then it is our duty to alter or abolish that government. So I know we all gearing up to vote, right? We all gearing up for that season. And I think that as we go into the polls, because I do believe that people need to vote, but I believe that as we go into the polls, we need to know that we are not voting for someone. We're voting for ourselves. We are voting to give ourselves more time to get to abolition. We are voting to give ourselves a better time on this struggle towards abolition. Like, I believe that our end goal, when we go in there and we cast our vote, we have to be manifesting a future in which we have completely abolished the United States government as it stands today, because it's not just the criminal justice system that is failing. It is every system in this country that is failing. It is the system of democracy in this country that has failed us. And we need to be radical, really, really radical in how we address this election, and not just this election, you know, how we use our ballots, how we use our brains, how we use our hearts, how we use our minds. It all has to be towards abolition. It's not just this one thing, this one moment. Like, it's really everything we do has to be towards a goal of really seeing a better country. Like, first and foremost, we are on stolen land. We got to acknowledge that. And what the people who control this stolen land have done with it is unacceptable. For us to be people here who believe in freedom, we have a responsibility to do what America never did when they declared themselves independent. But we have to declare ourselves independent of this white supremacist, capitalist, patriarchal society, and do something completely different, even if we, doing harm reduction steps along the way, because we have to do that. We have to survive while we're here. But we gotta see a different future. We gotta see a different vision for ourselves of where we're headed. And that's the only way we're gonna get there.
Thank you, Bella. Nicole, take us away.
I just want to say thank you all so much for watching the film and supporting My Angels, supporting Bella, supporting the work. Support them. All you have to do is text Freedom 2020 44321. It's very simple. I know you asked me a question, but I always go right back to, what do we do to support the work? These people do not get paid. They don't. This is only donation. If you love the film and if you love what you saw, if you are educated now, if you feel like you've opened that door, please, 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 Freedom 2020 to 44321. That's really all I have to say. Thank you, though. Thank you for having the film in your festival. And thank you to Susan Burton and everybody there as well.
Absolutely. So we have a treat for you guys. I believe someone by the name of Bella has a wonderful poem to read to us to close everything out. And I just want to say, before you start, Bella, thank you to the audience for watching the movie. Thank you to the audience for supporting A New Way of Life's 2020 Film Festival, and us having to pivot from being in person to being online and virtual. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Bella, I would like for you to close us out and take us away. Give us some freedom stuff to take home with us and to carry us on into the fight.
You already know how it's coming. I gotta get y'all that energy. Since we at home or wherever we at watching, I need y'all to keep that same energy going throughout the rest of your day, throughout the rest of your weekend, throughout the rest of your life. All right, so this is how I'm gonna send y'all out. But first and foremost, yeah, we friends, we cool, so you can just call me Bella. But I'm gonna perform right now. I'm Bella Bahs. Bahs is BAHHS. That's Black Ancestors Here Healing Society, not bars, not prisons. My website is bahsnotbars.com. You can check me out there. You can follow me at Bella Bahs. But here we go. Look, fuck your government and your politics. Your laws uphold white supremacists. Yeah, we had a Black president. He wasn't on no Black liberation shit. If he was, he couldn't have been in that position then. So far removed from our experience, he ain't posed a threat to white imperialists. My opinion, it ain't meritorious to be commander-in-chief when they at war with us. Oval Office from the back of the bus. It don't matter where we sit if we still powerless. Look, I think power is making your environment a product of you. See, white kids learn how to own, but our taught us how to consume. They fucked up when they let me enter the school. I mastered all of their books, then I put them all in my hooks. My tuition paid for the hood, lyrics of service, and the good. I'm trying to give back what they took, like the right to an education in the nation. What we facing, everyday degradation, more Black men on parole or probation than we ever had on a fucking plantation. Your explanation say that shit not racist. 4th of July, fuck all we celebrating. Our niggas in slavery, we screaming we made it. This the destination? Hell no, we keep pacing. I'm a young sister soldier, like Angela Davis, trying to lead a movement. Just vote for a lady. Look, I got the shorties yelling bars for president. If I ever run, I'll be the realest since Harriet at the Electoral College. I'm gonna need me a scholarship. Gang shit is politics. The difference is rhetoric. Real leaders in the ground, criminals in the government. I just want my reparations. You could call it a settlement. Genocide ain't no accident though, so we could show up to their polls or we could up all of our polls. Go toe to toe in the rain like a nigga proposed. Look, went to their college, got magna cum laude, learned shit that they taught me. It don't really matter. Won't help my brothers who locked in they cellars. So I yell free my niggas and aim at they sheriffs. Deputy dead at his desk. 3 bullets off in his chest. Proof that you do need a vest. They think it's a game, boy. This shit ain't no joke. Ain't breaking no laws. They shit already broke. Fuck do they think they y'all playing with? Bella Vaz. All of my heroes are militant. All of my niggas doing petty ass sentences. This ain't a rap. It's a document to the United States government. We do not fuck with your governance. All of my sisters and brethren, we made a covenant. We will not spend one more dime till you respect Black lives. Put that code on a picket sign, get the gang and let's go. Take this shit straight to your door. Heard you been looking for woe. Is this what you've been looking for? So just in the hood, so they always on tow. My brown got shot down walking home from the store. His killer didn't even have to go to court. Raised $1 million to show they support. Fuck them, we not trying to build good rapport. Now that shit is dead. You better stay inside if you are scared. City so cold that you got to wear layers. But rocking the hoodie mean that they will pray us. Walk out the door, my grandma say her prayers. Assalamu alaikum. Don't fuck with the pigs. I don't fuck with the bacon. Think that I'm golden, you sadly mistaken. This is Black history that we are making. We are Black history. It's in the making. And even if we don't, our story's gonna make it. I'm Bella Vaz, y'all. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching the Third Strike film.
That was beautiful. And speaking of voting, Danny, please remind people about registering to vote for tomorrow. And good night. And thank you again for everybody, again, watching the movie and watching the panel and for all of your questions. And thank you again to the panelists. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and peace.
Thank you so much, Ingrid Archie, Bella Vaz, My Angel Cody, Nicole Jones. Thank you for that wonderful panel discussion and really sharing your stories and experiences with us and sharing your incredible art. And you're helping us continue the conversation, opening up our minds and helping us educate the masses so we can continue the dialogue, which is what Justice on Trial Film Festival is all about. So thank you, thank you, thank you to all of you. And so everyone watching, that is the end of night 3. And we hope to see you all for the 4th night tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So tomorrow we have another important night with 2 more short films from Hidden Lives Illuminated, both created by filmmakers from the Pennsylvania State Correctional Institute of Chester. And we also have a feature-length documentary called Aggie, which explores the nexus of art and race and justice through a story of art collector and amazing philanthropist Agnes Gund, who devoted $100 million from the sale of a Roy Lichtenstein masterpiece for the Art of Justice Fund to address mass incarceration in the United States. So let's continue the conversation. Let's continue to have important conversations and learn more from each other tomorrow. But be sure to register for your ticket on justiceontrialfilmfestival.net, where you can also register to vote if you haven't yet, but you can also check your voter registration. I know because of the pandemic, many of us have maybe moved. We're looking to find how to mail in our ballot to see the status of all that. So you can go on justiceontrialfilmfestival.net. So when you register for your ticket, you can check all of that as well. Which is very important in this time. We all need to vote. It is, our voices are very important and your vote matters. So, but before I go, if you didn't catch the first screening, you have an opportunity to still watch the amazing and important Third Strike. We have an encore presentation. So at the bottom of this video of my face, there is a description and you can click a link that says, click here to watch the Third Strike. So, so for everyone who's tuning into the encore, enjoy the film. And to everyone, good night. And I hope to see you tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you so much for coming. Good night.